Shares in Greater China marking losses this morning as the nation's once biggest property developer, Evergrande, is said to be broken up and liquidated under a Hong Kong court order. We take a look now at how markets are moving. A Shanghai Composite and Shenzhen, they're about 0.8% lower. The Hang Seng leading the way south. It is down by more than 1.5%. Those big price swings on Evergrandes units after plunging in early trade as well. But Evergrande Property Services is up nearly 9%, while its new energy vehicle up some 11.3% there. And let's bring in Hong Hao, chief economist at GROW Investment Group, to talk more about the Evergrande saga. Well, Hao, it's good to have you on. And definitely we're seeing uncertainty ahead for China Evergrande. First of all, of course, how long could this take to be resolved? Does it have the option to appeal? And so many questions. And even will Chinese courts, will they even recognize Hong Kong's ruling?
Yeah, I think it's going to take years because, according to what I read from the document from the court, it's not entirely clear, whether it's a ruling against the Hong Kong listed entity or the entire Evergrande Corporation. But my understanding at this stage is that, the jurisdiction, the ruling is against the Hong Kong listed entity. And so as a result, you could see, some share exchanging. For example, issuing new equities in the list code in Hong Kong to exchange some debt that is not being repaid, etc., etc. Regarding the onshore entity, which controls over 90% of Evergrande's assets, is still not clear, whether it's included in this court order. But I think more likely than not, the recognition from the mainland court on this court order in Hong Kong, could take some time. And then once that happens, then, you have to appoint a liquidator to administer the process, and it could take years, before it ends. So I think right now it's still early days, and I don't think the market is taking it very positively. So as a result, as you can see, the shares of Evergrande and also the bonds is trading as if the company has already gone bankrupt.
Indeed, it could be a positive thing because the talk of this liquidation has been swirling for the longest time, and now that is finally ordered to liquidate. In a sense, it is putting to sleep this problem that has been plaguing China's property markets. But does it spell the end of all the troubles that we're seeing in China's property sector?
No, I think it's just the beginning. Because there are many other big developers similar size to Evergrande, even though Evergrande is huge. But, there are many other developers that is more or less the same size. And they were facing similar challenges as well. So, for example, there are rumors about, some of the developers unable to meet the debt repayment schedule for this year. And also, if you look at the cash flow status, because of the property sales has been continued to slowing down. So I think the cash recycling from many of these construction projects has been very slow. So as a result, that impact on the ability to service debt as well. So I think Evergrande, if it's sort of unraveled according to plan, then it could give some sort of a roadmap for other developers. But I think, at this stage, it is way too early to draw a conclusion that, this is probably the end of the saga. And I think it's the end of the saga. Well, it's the beginning of the end of the saga for Evergrande, but then it's the beginning for the other developers.
Process. Indeed. How much realistically, if we were to look at it, how much realistically can be recovered from that liquidation? And the chances even of Evergrande securing a white knight, given its track record?
Yes, I think the company indeed has survived many episodes of near-death experience. As early as in 2008, Chairman Hui was able to raise a couple of $100 million US, to make the company to survive one of the worst financial crises in history. and then prosper from there. So, it is a possibility, but it's a very remote one. I think in terms of how much value you can salvage from the assets, as we all know that, when you're doing a fire sale, much of the assets, can be sold at a very little value. If you look at the price to book or price to NAV for many of the developers, they have been trading at about 10% of the NAV for a long time now. So that means that, the market sort of does not believe the value of the underlying assets. And, the best case scenario is that, you can take 10% of the underlying assets when you liquidate.
And finally, we have time for a quick question. What happens to its creditors in the meantime? And, how will this impact future investments into China?
Yeah, if you look at the Evergrande bond that is due in 2025, it's trading at about 1.5 cents to $100. So it plunged 99% already. So I think, in the past year also, there have been many brave ones, trying to catch a bottom of the debt, with the belief that the government won't let Evergrande go bankrupt. But now, things seems to be, happening in reverse. So I would say that for the bond investors in Evergrande situation, the best case scenario is that they can salvage value from the liquidation process. But in terms of the price of the bond, trying to catch a bounce from here, it will be like catching a falling knife, and it will be a very risky act to do.
All right, Hao, appreciate your time this morning. Hao Hong, Chief Economist at GROW Investment Group.